Okay, so good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Academics Forum by the Academic Society, a society of the University of Cambridge Student Union. Before we begin, please note that today's session will be recorded and a viewing of the discussion will be made available on YouTube. By remaining in this session, you consent to being recorded. Let me start by briefly introducing the three conveners moderating today's event. I'm Ben, the president of the Academic Society. I'm a PhD candidate supervised by Professor Jorge Vinoles, researching how the interaction between company law and sustainability law reveals weaknesses in corporate environmental accountability. I have around 10 years of combined experience in legal, academia, and legal practice. Hao is a vice president of the society. She is a PhD candidate supervised by Professor Li Wan, working on sustainable transportation, focusing on travel behavior, mobility patterns, and emerging transport technologies. She brings over 10 years of professional architectural experience to her research. Asel is also a vice president of the society. She is a PhD candidate supervised by Professor Martin Dixon, researching comparative approaches to foreign land ownership rights. She has more than 16 years of professional legal experience spanning regulatory and compliance work. Hao will begin by introducing our first two speakers, and Asel will introduce the remaining two. We'll then move through three teams. Hao will lead the segment on PhD and early research. Asel will lead the segment on the postdoc and early independent stage, and I will lead the segment on the assistant professor stage and current research directions. Each panelist will have up to 3 minutes per question. We'll then move into the Q&A and closing, which Hao will handle. With that, I'll hand things over to Hao to introduce our first two speakers. Hao, please.
Thank you, Ben. Hello to everyone. It's good to see all of us joining today. And I'll begin by introducing our first two speakers. First is Professor Lili Jia. She is a research professor in sustainable economy at Cambridge and leader of the Sustainable Innovate Lab in Center for Human-Inspired Artificial Intelligence. Her work integrates behavioral science, digital technologies, and systems thinking to address real-world sustainability challenges. She has also contributed to national policy in areas such as plastic pollution, food traceability, and inclusive digital services. Our second speaker is Professor Shaoqing Chen, Professor of Urban Environmental Management and Associate Dean at the Institute of Carbon Neutrality and Green Development at Sun Yat-sen University. He is currently a senior visiting scholar at Land Economy. His research focuses on urban environmental modeling and carbon neutral development, with extensive experience in sustainable urban policy innovation. Thank you both for joining us. I'll now hand over to Asel to introduce the remaining two speakers.
Excuse me for these technical issues. I just have my earplugs are not working. Sorry for this. And if I may request Ben to make introduction for our two valuable guests of today's seminar. Ben, you're muted too.
Asel, I think you can go ahead. I can hear you very clearly.
Professor Noura, Wahby, would you like to introduce yourself? Sorry for this inconvenience.
No worries, no problem. Hopefully, I don't have technical issues either. Good morning, everyone. My name is Noura. I'm an assistant professor of climate, environment, and urban policy with a focus on urban sustainability here at the Department of Land Economy. Previously, I was an assistant professor of public policy and administration at the American University in Cairo. And before that, I had done my PhD and postdocs here at Cambridge as well. And my research focuses on infrastructure planning and access in informal areas and in new cities. And I focus on urban governance and the politics of infrastructure in specifically Egypt and across the Middle East and the Global South. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Noura Wahby. And Professor Junli Zhao, would you please kindly introduce yourself? I'm very sorry for this inconveniences.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to attend this conference and share my academic experience. I'm a professor in Donghua University. My research focuses on industrial economics, especially textile apparel industry. Now I'm a visiting scholar at the Department of Land Economy, and I cooperate with Professor Peter Tyler and do some research about urban and regional economics. A pleasure to meet all of you.
Thank you to our panelists. We will now begin our first theme of the discussion, PhD and early research. In this theme, I'll invite each of our 4 panelists to reflect on the early stages of the academic journey, specifically how they shaped their research topics and navigated challenges in the early years. Just a quick note to our speakers, we kindly ask that each of your response stays roughly around 3 to 5 minutes so we can keep the session on schedule. First, Dr. Wahby, during your doctoral work on urban governance and infrastructure in Cairo, what helped you refine your research questions in a context where the political and social landscape was constantly shifting?
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation and for a great question. So to start with, maybe I'll just explain my doctoral research was built on research that I started during my master's, which might be the case for a lot of students as well. And it was the first time I started working on urban areas following my supervisor's work on infrastructure and planning in informal areas in Cairo. So I was primarily interested, actually, when I first did my PhD proposal, to focus on informal areas in Egypt, but also in Pakistan. So my PhD proposal was about Pakistan. When I first met my PhD supervisor, she asked me, the tricky questions. Do you know the language? Have you been there? What sort of in-depth kind of research can you do in that context? And even though I had been there and I know the context, it was going to be a lot of work to try to focus on 2 countries. So one of the first kind of ways of refining my research was to select a context, select a bounded space, and just focus on doing in-depth research in one specific area, especially because as a qualitative researcher, it's not about adding more case studies to be able to speak to the question that we have, but instead how deep we can go into one case study and develop a longer, more elaborative research on the questions that we're asking. And even though I was interested in informal areas in particular, one of the things that emerged while I was starting to refine my question through the literature review, through the context review, was new cities. So as part of the shifts in the social and political spaces, there was planning, there was a lot of planning of new cities into the suburbs of Cairo, and there was a lot of focus on by the state on putting in investments into those spaces specifically. So one of the ways that I expanded and also kind of refined the question was looking at the planning of these new cities, because it becomes something very important in the political economy of the time and even today. So as you know, we always say while you're doing your doctoral research and research in general, a lot of things evolve once you're on the ground and once you start looking at the data and once you start looking at the context. And this is something that, you know, we have to be open to and flexible to when we're first starting. This is primarily, of course, for qualitative research in particular. And I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Noura. To Professor Jia, looking back at the early stages of your research, what sparked your interest in integrating behavior science, digital technologies, and systems thinking to address sustainability challenges?
Yeah, this is a great question. Actually, actually, it's driven by the problem. So, because my background is economics and eventually in economics management, master in international trade, and my PhD was in microeconomics. It's all economics background. But after my PhD, I started to explore how we can address the sustainability issue, because many people blame economists. And so as an economist, I'm trying to understand how we could solve this problem. And gradually I found that just understanding the mechanisms, the theories, and even you use empirical tests, and you use a lot of data, you try to prove how robust your results are, and you provide policy suggestions. But how often those policy suggestions actually have been used? Very, very rare. And if you look at the time, it could take decades, right? So then I started to understand how we can build these mechanisms into the solutions. And the technological solutions, of course, they are very fast to be adopted, and then you can see impacts in years, right? Rather than decades. So I think that's the first motivation. It's about the speed, how fast we can actually apply the knowledge and see the real world impact. And the second is when we say behavioral science, because economics is all about understanding the incentives, right? It's the behavior, but it's not so because there are different disciplines actually in this domain, psychology and social science as well. So economists, especially mainstream economists, that's my background, and so often we don't address enough the qualitative information, which is valuable but cannot be quantified properly. So it could be the psychological theories, could be also in social science, like Noura did. So a lot of this knowledge, and also in operational management as well. So there are many like sub-disciplines, they already provided lots of knowledge, information, and practices. This knowledge actually has not been used properly. So that's why I think when we say behavioral science, it's about actually we bring the knowledge from different disciplines and relate it to behavior challenges so that we can make best use of it. And the third one is about the system approach. And because as I talk about the methodology, as you can imagine, it's already very, very complicated, right? So luckily, in engineering and management, they have a so-called systems approach. And because they face this called wicked problems very often. And I found that it's very convenient. We build on the top of the systems design, system thinking. Although it's not like theories is very, very well defined. But as a starting point, it is very helpful to frame our thinking and build on the existing knowledge, understanding, and practices. So that's why by the time I'm talking about this, to be honest, I'm still exploring how we can do it better. So every day we are optimizing our methods. And but I'm very happy to share this journey and also discuss with all of you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Zhang. Professor Chen, in your early research on urban environmental management, what were the key conceptual or modeling challenges you faced, and how did they shape your long-term approach?
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to speak to all of you guys here. Um, Actually, I was trained to be an ecologist, so it's kind of a study of the relationship between the biosystem and the environment. But right now, I was like shifting a little bit to the relationship between human and the human production and consumption, and and their relationships with the natural environment. So I was studying like the project associated with the climate impact of cities, so-called. Then it kind of like a project task and my own exploration at the same time. So it was a lot of like brainstorming and debates and with my colleagues in order to get the idea going. So because there are so many elements actually, it's so many sectors within the cities. You have agriculture, you have the like industrial manufacturing. So in China, there's a huge part, right? And you have also like many different services, and services has a lot of different variety of industry within the services sector. So actually, there's a complex system. So how can we resolve this? We use a methodology called network analysis, which is the funny part is it's actually first used in social science. So for example, social network analysis, right? Study maybe sometimes the relationship of your boss and you, right? And other stuff. But then it was applied to study the ecosystem and study the interaction between different, like, so for example, species, right? So that's kind of ecological network analysis. And then we have modified it and used that to urban ecosystem. So it's kind of because urban ecosystem is kind of a hybrid system, right? Of the biosystem, and you have the human dominated infrastructure, and you also have other natural environment. You also have like other species, actually, other like Greenlands, right? For example. So there's a complex flows. There's many different various flows of like information and energy and material at the same time. So you have multiple flows. You have like a complex relationship between different sectors, different components, or as we say, compartments. So we use the methodology of network analysis in order to unravel this kind of complex relationship and trying to understand how well we have managed the urban ecosystem and how this like management could lead to different outcomes of climate change impact. So this kind of the setting of our earlier idea. Right now, it has developed to like we have also analyzed different like other media, right? For example, you have a water issue, you have an energy issue, you have the carbon issue, and you have also have the food issue in a very highly populated ecosystem, like urban ecosystem. So we have kind of also studied the intertwined the connections between these different elements in order to get maybe the achievement of multiple SDGs. So, okay, I'll stop here.
Thank you, Professor Chen. Professor Zhao, During your PhD, what drew you into specializing in industrial economics within the textile and apparel sector, and how did that early focus shape your career trajectory?
Thank you for your question, Hao. Yeah, during my doctor studies, I struggled for a long time with deciding on the dissertation topic. My supervisor suggests me choose an industry to focus on. I consider two possibilities. First is the financial industry. Second is textile and apparel industry. Because my husband worked in a bank, so I thought researching finance might be convenient as he can share his experience. And I remember I spent a month and a half to make the literature review. And after about 2 months literature review, I found that there are so many finance disciplines in many universities. It's hard for me to stand out. But if I choose textile and apparel industry, because when I conduct my PhD study, I still work in Donghua University. Donghua University is a textile engineering and fashion design top in China and very well known in the world. So if I choose textile apparel industry, I could support by the strong discipline foundation of my university, and I think I could aim to could become one of the leading researchers in this area. So I choose focus my dissertation on textile and apparel upgrading, and this is the factual reason. Another reason is that textile industry is a springboard of industrialization and urbanization, so as a driving force behind the economic takeoff of almost all developing and less developed countries. There are two books. If you are interested, I can suggest you read. One book is Empire of Cotton. Another book is Silk Road. Both of the book is a bestseller's book. And these two books and also some related research can tell us the textile reflect the capital expansion, market competition, trade disputes, and social conflicts, and even war. So it's a very important and good case to study economics and related issues. That's why I choose the textile and apparel industry, and I think it's my decision. Maybe it's proved to be right because in my second year of doctoral study, I successfully approved a grant from education ministry. At my time, it's possible. Even I haven't finished my PhD study, I can apply for a grant. But now it's impossible. And in the fourth year of my doctoral study, after my completion of the completion of PhD study, that means in the fourth year, I successfully approved national social science grants. There's only one national social science in our university, and this achievement was featured in the university newspaper. So I think it's right for not so many people study textile and apparel industry, but this industry is traditional. It's a very important industry, and it can reflect many things. Now I focus on the four transformation One is digital transformation. Second, the green transformation. Third is financial-oriented transformation. Fourth is spatial restructuring of this industry. That's all my answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor
It's a good
Zhang.
question.
And thank you to our all panelists for those insightful reflections. I'll now hand over to Ben, who will take us in our second theme on postdoctoral and early independent research.
Okay, thank you, Hao. So I think let's move on to the second segment of the seminar today. The second seminar will cover on postdoc research and early independent stage. So I think one of the questions that a lot of us in the academic society have on our minds is a Nature paper. I'm not sure if all of you have come across the panelists. In June, it asks, it's published by Diana Kwon, and it says how many PhDs does the world need? Because doctoral graduates today vastly outnumber jobs in academia. So I think this is a worry that a lot of us in Cambridge and in other universities have on our minds, because as a lot of us move on to find a postdoc or even a lecturer position, I think this is a recurring concern. So a lot of you here today hold very distinguished positions. You have published very extensively. Prof. Chen, you have, I think, almost 5,000 citations on Google Scholar as well. So I'm just wondering, if all the four of you here today can probably share more in terms of how would, a current PhD student in Cambridge probably alleviate some of their fears or concerns as they move into the postdoc space after they finish their PhDs. So let us start first with Dr. Wahby, right? And then we'll move on to the other speakers. Yeah, Dr. Wahby, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ben. Yes, I think the current job market in the UK and globally for academics, I think has always been precarious. And I think since COVID as well, there are a lot of the cracks in the industry have also been revealed. And I have to say that maybe actually your first job after the PhD, you might not have the luxury to choose your first postdoc, right? And I have a lot of friends, and myself included, you go through several postdocs before you're able to find that stable job at the end of the day. So in my case, while I was finishing up the PhD and applying for jobs at the same time, which is a whole job on its own, and one of the things I realized is that finalizing your dissertation and having a final dissertation gives a lot of confidence when you do job applications. So if you're doing it a bit too early, you might not get a lot of callbacks because there isn't something to prove that you've done a long piece of work and that you're capable of finishing that. So in my case, as I was finishing up and doing these different job applications, I think I applied for 70 jobs at some point. A job opened up in the engineering department. So very far away from my field. I was, very much in political geography, social science research, but they were looking for a qualitative researcher. And it was actually a project partly with the Professor Li Wan, where they were implementing a digital twin for the city of Cambridge, and they wanted to understand the community perspectives from different grassroots groups in the city. So I didn't even know what a digital twin was. I didn't know what it meant, but the skills that I had as a qualitative researcher was something that they needed in this context. So it was a 9-month job, really opened up a new horizon, new case study, and a new line of research for me, and study in Cambridge, which a lot of us, just take as somewhere where we live, but maybe not really engage with in terms of research. So my first kind of message is that you never know where the job could be. Don't try to limit yourself in one specific discipline, one specific field of study. I think the great thing about land economy is a lot of us do interdisciplinary work. So your different sets of skills can be used in different places and in different fields in different ways. My second postdoc was an ESRC grant, an Economic and Social Research Council grant that I won individually, and it was housed in the geography department. But COVID hit that year, so I couldn't start a new kind of independent research that I wanted to do. But it gave me a lot of time to write articles for the first time, write a book proposal, really invest in some of the, again, interdisciplinary skills, because you don't know where you're going to end up in terms of a department, in terms of an industry or a space. So, you know, moving from politics to engineering to geography to public policy, and then finally land economy, what I would say is try as much as possible, because the PhD does give you a lot of hard skills that can be used. A lot of disciplines do need the in-depth kind of research, whether it's qual, whether it's quant. And this is something that even if you decide to go academic adjacent, there's a lot of adjacent industries out there. There is a lot on Twitter, or formerly Twitter, now X, Blue Sky. There is a whole kind of range of spaces that actually tell you and help you develop some of these skills that you can go into other academic adjacent spaces. And it's kind of a revolving door between academia and industry. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wahby. I think that's a fantastic answer and reply. So it's interesting to hear how you have moved on from engineering to geography to now land economy. So I think that's really how some of us can pivot to other areas when there's a demand for it. And I think that's going to be very important in light of AI, and all new developments in sustainability. So the second person is Prof. Chia, and I think you are in AI and sustainable innovation lab, and I think it's an area that it's going to gain a lot of traction over time. So my question to you is, in light of this, currently when we look at jobs, there's a lot of jobs that's looking actually for research associates or research fellows in AI, large language models, in digital transformation. So is there any advice that you can give to some of our members in the academic society? Because, some of them who are actually doing research in humanities space, they tend to be more worried because, it's harder to find jobs, because right now there's a lot of requirement for people really doing AI. So what are some of the advice you can give for someone wanting to transition from, say, a humanities PhD into a AI postdoc? Because I know it's very versatile out there.
Yeah, it's a great question. And first, I want to share some stories. I think the other side of the AI, probably you haven't noticed, especially your background is not in computer science or engineering. Actually, and when we see the rapid development of AI, and people may think that the social scientists will lose the job first. But I have to say that if you look at statistics, it's computer scientists. So the software engineers, because AI can write better. So in general, so as you can see, the highlights, Google, Microsoft, they lay out a lot of software engineers because AI can write code a lot quicker, faster than the engineers, right? So first, if you are social scientist, if you do the qualitative research, and you don't have to worry about this because you can do more like creative work, and that cannot be replaced by AI immediately. So we're talking about immediate replacement, right? That's the first thing. But the second thing is it did change everyone's job. It's not just about changing social scientists like a job, and they change everyone's job, right? And so many of us, I think, we are using like AI, ChatGPT, and Copilot is almost on daily basis, right? It changed the way we do research as well, right? It's about the world is changing so fast. Whether you do research or you work in any industry, and you have to change as well, right? So you have to think and how we can do it better. It's about so we are talking about the learning speed. The whole society is learning AI, and then each and it has implications to each industry, and then how we can use AI as tool in a better way. And the second trend I want to say that in AI world now, and so there is a kind of saying like AGI, so basically artificial general intelligence, but very few people actually believe that. Because AGI means that is you can create a super smart model that can predict everything correctly, which is almost impossible because there are so many like granularities of knowledge, and so the local text, and they cannot be incorporated. Even we don't have that data yet, how the model can be correct, right? So that means that so another trend that most people, even most AI experts, they more agree is in the future AI will be embedded in every aspect of the disciplines and industries, right? So that means that the domain knowledge and even more important, right? Because that knowledge, especially social science, that knowledge has not even been quantified yet and cannot be even embedded into the database yet. And the database has so poor quality. How we can improve the quality? And if the data is not good enough, the model cannot be good enough, right? So for example, a lot of our work when we develop the AI models, a lot of our work actually focus on how we can clean the data, structure the data in a better way, and then algorithm can perform better. It's not about how to play with the algorithm. A lot about is about understanding the data and then choose the right methodologies and structure data in the right way, so that it can really that's this whole process requires the integration of domain knowledge. So I think hopefully it can it can address some of your concerns, but I understand that we all need to change and learn.
Thank you, Prof. Xia. I think that's a very interesting insight. And you spoke about AI singularity. So a lot of us, tend to be very worried. Even I think yesterday Elon Musk came out to say that in future there will be no work for people, and people can just choose when they want to work. I don't think we will reach that stage because even if we ever achieve AI singularity, which would definitely take some time more into the future, and even you would probably need more developments in quantum computing. It also shows, you tend to paint a very optimistic picture, but I think it's good because it gives the social scientists a glimmer of hope to know that, that they just need to evolve, right? With new technology improvements, they need to find new ways, or they use. And I think your Department of Center for Human Inspired AI is actually very relevant in this aspect because it's about how you interface, the human knowledge that you have with technology, and it's always been like that. But it's just that now we have a new way of researching, which is AI. So thank you very much for painting a very optimistic picture, and I think a lot of us in academia will be very happy about it, especially the social scientists. Let's move on to Prof. Chen. Prof. Chen, you have a lot of citations. I think yesterday when I was doing my quick research on all the speakers, you have close to 5,000 over citations, and right now a lot of us in academia tend to be very concerned about our publications because we need to find jobs, and one of the things they really look at is impact, and they measure impact today by looking at your Google Scholar profile. So one of the things that I'm very interested in, and I think you have really a lot of papers out there, and you hold this associate dean position in the Institute of Carbon Neutrality and Green Development at Sun Yat-sen University. So to all our Cambridge PhD students that are in Cambridge and elsewhere, what is some advice that you can, or what are some advice that you can give in terms of how our students here can actually grow their Google Scholar profile, publish more during their PhD, and make an impact, hopefully, in academia?
Okay, thank you, Ben. Actually, this tough question. I think I would rather maybe sometime get the AI question or the PhD question. Yeah, I think, but I will adjust a little bit about the PhD question first, and then get down to the publication impact. I think right now we have, as the Dr. Wahby said, we have, and you also mentioned that we have many worries about whether we are getting too having too much PhD or something like that, and also kind of related to the impact that you can make actually. Um, so right now, so in China, the situation is that uh, we are emphasizing a lot on publications, as you said, right? We need to like a public a certain amount of paper in order to graduate and in order to get a career later on. So there's essential actually for many PhD student in China, but as I understand, it's not quite mandatory, right, for a student here or in Europe, right? So, but I think if you treat it the like academic as kind of a business, it's also cruise could be cruise sometime. So only a few people can succeed from this kind of like campaign, right? So you get to have your like publication, get your paper published in your early stage. I think that's kind of challenging because many of your idea was not quite well developed at this stage actually. You just at the stage that you are finishing your PhD study, and so you kind of just starting this field actually. But at the same time, and you need to get many of your idea published, even though sometimes you think those ideas are not mature enough actually. So I think that's kind of a tough part, right? But undeniably, many people have done their excellent work during their PhD, right? Maybe, well, publish many very good world stand papers in world leading journals. Yeah, that's important and also essential if you like try to persuade a position, right, in university. But I will say that at some point you got to slow down, so you don't emphasize on the number of the publication. You're just looking at the quality and you say how good you can be in this field. Like not just compared to other academic researchers, right? Also compared to who you were when you were in the early stage of study. Are you getting better? Are you getting more skills? Are you more like well developed in your own ideas compared to your previous stage? I think that's really important. Many researchers told me that they don't want to repeat right their previous work. They just want to put forward many new ideas. And I think you should make a balance sometimes between so how you can like develop your old ideas and become a new like a new models, new researchers that has great global impact. But at the same time, you should like doing new things. For example, right now you should do of course do something like, for example, related to AI, right? Because AI clearly have done some jobs that are better than human. So it's kind of you should use a lot of tools in order to enhance your study. And then in terms of the impact, I think if you make a real contribution to this field, and if you think this kind of model or matrix can be applied, right, in many different field, different areas, I think the impact will be there because we don't have to persuade people, right, to sign our papers. Uh, uh, that's not that's not okay, right? That's not the way you should go. But we just show your study maybe at conferences and also like make a clear message in your publication. You have the bullet points. You have the many like clear policy implication. I think that's it. That's what we did, right? What we should do, and then let the our like other researchers to be the judge. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chen. I think that's very, very helpful advice. So he's advising all of us to actually, work hard, publish, make an impact, go for conferences, attend. So these are all very practical advice. And I think it also boils down to the kind of hours you're going to put in. So of course, everyone is working on a different pace, right? That could be, I've heard from various academics, some of them just rarely sleep, rarely go out on weekends, and they work nonstop. But of course, the theme for today is sustainability in academia. So it's about how sustainable you want to be before burning out. So I think that's a very important advice that Prof. Chen gave all of us today. We'll move on to Prof. Zhao, right? So I think I saw your background, and it's very, very interesting because yesterday when I was doing research, you move on from, or rather your background is in economics, right? You have economics degree to a PhD, and then you move on to do textile, apparel supply chains, industrial economics. So it's more of a manufacturing angle, sustainability, manufacturing. So what I'm very interested in is because recently I actually moved on from I used to publish a lot on AI and legal policy, and then I moved on to sustainability. And I recently published a paper in using blockchain for enhanced transparency and traceability in sustainable supply chain. And I think there's really a lot of synergy with your research, although mine is more of a literature review and analysis from a very much of a legal perspective and a tech perspective. But I really want to know, like, how do you marry two things together, right? Like economics, and then you transition over to supply chain, even bringing in AI and developments in industrial economics into your research. I thought that's a very nice transition into something that is very traditional economics, and then moving on to doing something that is very new, which is your AI, your improvements in manufacturing. So I really wanted to hear more from you in terms of how one can actually manage to do such a successful transition into a new era.
Oh, thanks, Ben.
Prof. Zhao,
Thanks,
please.
thanks for your question. It's a very large question. I think, it's also it's a challenge for me to divergent area of about the study. You mean that I done some study for example, green innovation, digital transformation, also fashion. But all of these focus on in textile and apparel industry, so it's not divergent. So divergent. I think it's a balance between divergent and specialization. If you only do specialization, such as we study the cities development, if the city is resource cities, such as it has a coal or petrol industry, the development of the city is not resilient. If the industry decline, the city maybe has some risk. For example, Detroit, it is automobile city. When the automobile transfer to other countries, the city face much transition risk, so it declined and face many problems. And also for me, if I study the textile and apparel industry, I study this focus, the specific industries, it offers some risk. If the industry decline, such as in some developed countries, the traditional industry has moved to other, especially manufacturing activities to move to other countries. So how can we study this industry? I think we can look at this question from the latest technology and the latest requirement about this industry. For example, last month I attended a textile conference in Portugal, and the topic is about textile conference. It is the 93rd conference. Every 18 months, from every 18 months to 2 years, this conference is once this conference. So this conference has lasted about 100 years about this textile industry. So textile and apparel, we all of us should wear clothes. So it's all day lifelong time industry, and we can study from the new development, such as use new technology, digital technology, artificial intelligence to use the technology to in application of this industry. Last year, I made a survey about textile company in Shanghai. This company is both green and smart factory. So we can see even in the industry level, in the enterprise, they consider transformation. And for me, I can look at textile and apparel industry as a case and study the latest transformation, use the new technology to help the traditional industry to upgrade and can achieve sustainability, can achieve the green development. So that's why I choose this industry, and also I hope I can help the traditional transformation of the look at as a textile and apparel industry as an important case. And one I suggest that I use many new methodology such as digital and artificial intelligence, and also some new method recycling idea, and also and so on. Yes. So it's all my answer for these questions. Thank you for your it's a big question. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Chow. I know it was a very complicated question, but you answered it very well. So I think the key thing is really to be able to pivot very quickly to new areas. So really the key takeaway for this second segment is to never fear new development and to always see AI really as a tool to improve research quality and impact, and also to be able to transition and pivot, to always keep an open mind. And as Prof. Chia said, right, the code is only as good as the human mind, and be ready to transition to new spaces is one of the key takeaway from this second segment. So with that, I'll pass it over to Hao, right? She will conclude, and she will also open up to the floor for a Q&A session. So Hao, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ben. We now open to the audience. If you like to ask questions, feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand or type your question into the chat. And William.
Good morning. Thank you very much for all the advices that I heard today. I think I will do a follow-up question of Ben's question, but I'm William Flores. I am PhD candidate in agribusiness from Brazil. Currently, I'm visiting Cambridge. My research analyzes economic drivers and policy effectiveness for Amazon deforestation control, and I aim to pursue academic career. Right now, I'm a research tech in Brazil, in a federal university in Brazil. And for those of you who supervised early career researchers like me, what would be your key advice for building a strong academic profile when your doctoral research is comprehensive but still yielding publications?
William, do you have a specific panelist to ask for your question, or it's a general one?
Well, I would like to hear from all of the panelists because I think they already supervised people like me who are early career researchers, and there's a key advice because I take some notes here, like Professor Noura Wahby told that you don't have to chew that much when you're applying to a postdoc and everything, and there's some more key advice like this. I can ask Noura Wahby again if she think of one of these advices.
Sure. No, thank you for the question. I think so. I think in trying to develop like a profile, a researcher profile after the PhD, it is very important, like you said. And I think having some kind of holistic profile would be useful because then it can speak to the different kind of fields and disciplines. So on the one hand, showing that you're done with the dissertation, you were able to do that, but also having a clear idea of where you're going to be publishing, how depending on the type of dissertation you've done, it could be, the 3-paper approach or the book approach. So having clear ideas about what the main kind of arguments are, where you can apply to publish, but also, having some kind of trajectory of where your research is going to go. So this is something that you probably have to do for a lot of these job applications. A research statement, a teaching statement, and your CV really have to speak to one another. And what I would do is, again, just because academia is also still quite siloed, maybe our department is a bit better, but having things that speak more to, for instance, the politics side, so having something that speaks more to, something on space and place and something that's more spatially connected, so that you have to be, when you're applying for the jobs, you have to be not changing your colors, but also adapting and being flexible enough to speak to what the committee is also looking for. So either way, you're going to be bringing in a lot of expertise, a lot of experiences, but you also have to be speaking to what they're looking for at the same time. So definitely, having 1 or 2 different research statements, picking a slightly different focus when you're applying for the jobs, that would be useful.
Thank you, Dr. Wahby. Perhaps Professor Zhang can also answer this question. We'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm happy to share more about my thoughts. And so I think there's a short-term and long-term strategy, right? So in the long term, you need to set up, basically, you need to have a kind of a mission you want to achieve, like in 10 years' time, what you want to achieve. And in short term, you want to build your pathway that can meet the requirements. For example, first, you need to have a high quality PhD dissertation, and then, so what's the next step and how you can work towards build your own pathway towards that mission. And in this process, I think I also want to link to what Shaoqing just mentioned about the research quality and the quantity. So if you have a very big mission and usually quality is more important than quantity, because quality can really take you the better places where you can learn more. And so that's kind of just a few of my suggestions. But you definitely need to tailor based on your own environment and context and your opportunities as well.
Thank you, Professor Zhang. Any other questions from our audience? If not, I will take this chance to thank all of our panelists and our colleagues who helped to make this academic forum very successful. And today we have really had a very inspiring discussion about all our concerns or our journeys through our academic. And we talk about AI from a social science uptake and about how we can be open and to interdisciplinary research and how we make our impact in publication and how we diversify our research. And this concludes today's academic forum, and our next session will be on Lantern on 2026. We hope to welcome you and see many of you again in next term, and hope everyone to have a wonderful, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Good to see you all. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very
Thank you,
much.
Ben.
Bye.
Thank you, Hao.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a
Bye.
nice weekend,
Bye.
everyone.